Hello guys, I humbly welcome you to the channel. In this comprehensive series, we are covering on almost all aspects of e-commerce development. The goal is for us to learn. You can find the source code on the link below. If you have any question or want us to work together, you can send me a message. Otherwise, happy learning. So before we start dealing with the products, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to implement the logging and the registration functionality. So here what we want is when a user visits our sites, the first thing we want to do is we want to allow that user to create an account using these fields like a username, an email, and a password. And also they can also log in with those details. Later, I'm also going to show you how we can enable the user to log in using like continue with Google. I'm not going to show you Facebook, or maybe I can just show you Facebook also, but I'm going to focus mostly on Google. And also maybe later we can also implement a functionality whereby a user doesn't have to create an account for them to shop on our website. I think those three functionalities will be cool, but for now I only want us to focus on creating an account. So to do that, we are going to start by creating a register.html. So just to the on the template, just create another folder. We are going to create a folder called user auth. This folder is going to hold the register and the login functionality. User auths, this represent the name of the user auths we created, this app we created previously. Then from here, I'm just going to create a file called register.html. Then on the template I provided you, remember the template I provided, go to the form called register.html. Just drag and drop. I want us to copy this code, copy the code. Then here first, let's first of all extend the base.html and also load the static. We already had defined the base.html here on partials folder base.html. This one holds the head and the footer. I only want the body of it. So first I'm just going to load the static. So to do that, it's extends partials/base.html. Then we say load static to load any static file associated with this page. Then I'm just gonna paste this code. Then I'm going to search for main, where the main page starts. This one, I want to delete the header and the footer, so I'm just going to delete the header. Like that. Then I'm going to collapse the main page. Then delete the footer. Like that. Then wrap this in a block content. Very easy. I hope you are familiar with this. Then add block. Add block. Content, add block content, like that. Then I'm gonna use auto Django like I did before. To do this, just type Ctrl+Shift+P, select auto Django. We install this auto Django package from the extensions. If you don't have it installed, go to extensions and search for auto Django. Just gonna click it like that. So now let's render this HTML file on our site and see whether it's loading correctly. So to do that, I'm just going to cross this. To do that, we are going to create a URL for register.html. So just go to your app. Our app is user auth. Let me just close this also. URLs. Then I want to define a URL, and I also want to create a register.html view. So let me just start with the view. To do this, I'm just going to say on our view, I'm just going to define register, then I pass request, the normal Django stuff, then I'm going to return render, then I render this register.html. So to do that, first of all, I pass request, then I'm rendering the HTML. It's from user auth, so it's user auth slash it's register.html, like that. Then we'll go to a URL to create a URL to load the register.html. So to do this, just type URL patterns is equals to like this. Then remember to pass the app name. Our app name is user auth. It's not a must to do this, but I kind of just like doing it in case I have multiple apps. I can be able to differentiate. If I'm on this URL, I can know I'm dealing with what URL. So here on URL patterns, all you're going to do is pass the path. So I'm going to say path, comma, name. Here we want the name, the one that we want to show it's register. Then from views, we want to get the register function. To do that, what we do is from this app, from dot, we import views, like that. So here it's views dot our function name is register, then the name of this URL pattern, we want to call it register, like that. So now when we navigate to our register app, to our register URL, we are going to see that register.html. So let's do that. We go to our app. Let's make sure that it's loading. Then when I go to slash user slash register, our register.html is being rendered correctly. You can see the fields are loading, the images are also loading. So now what we want to do is we want to create a function to get this is the email. It's loading automatically because I've kind of saved it on Google, like that. But we want now to create a function that we are going to get the username, the email, and the password of that user. So to do that, instead of using models, I like using something called forms, so that I can just call forms, like the forms.username, forms.email, forms.password. I find it easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a forms.py. So on our user app, user auth, I'm going to create forms, another file called forms.py. Then from these forms, I want to use an abstract user class. So to do this, I'm just going to say from forms dot, I think it's forms dot. Now let's just say from Django. The first thing I want to do is I want to import forms. Then I'm going to say from Django dot contrib, from Django dot contrib dot auth dot forms. I want us to use something called user creation form. Then something else from user auth dot models. We want to import our user. Remember when we created our user on models.py, we created a class called user to allow the user to log in with an email or a username. So I also want to import this user so that we can take advantage of the email and username. Then after that, we're going to create our first class. We are going to say to call it class. We are going to call it user register form. User register form. And then we are going to use the user creation form that we imported. Then we are going to define those fields that we want to get on the register.html. These fields are, let me show you this quickly. This is what we want to define: the username, the email, the password, and the confirm password. So this is all we are going to define. So to do that, we're just going to pass username is equals to, then email is equals to, then password is equals to, you can call this password 1, then password 2, it's the confirm password, like that. Then on username, we are using forms, so it's forms dot username, it's a cal field, so it's cal field because we pass in characters. Then we also want to pass a widget. We say widget is equals to, it's forms dot, what we want to use is the text input, and then from that text input we want to kind of pass the placeholder. That's why I'm using the widget. This placeholder, you can see the name username here on the background. For me to pass this, I have to pass it through the forms. So it's widget is equals to forms dot, it's a text input. Then the attribute I want to use is the placeholder. So attribute is equals to, like that. Then placeholder, we want the placeholder to be username, like that. Very simple. We also want to do the same for email. So here it's forms dot, now instead of a cal field, an email, we use an email field. Then the same with the widget, so it's widget is equals to forms dot, now instead of a text field, here we use an email field, email input rather, email input. Then the same thing, attribute is equals to, attribute is equals to, we want the placeholder, the name we want to provide is email, like that. Then we do the same for password. So here it's forms dot, for password we're using a cal field, then it's the same as this. So I'm just going to copy this, forms dot cal field, like that. Then here it's widget is equals to forms dot, now instead of a text input, here we have a password input, like that. Then the attribute, it's placeholder, then the name, here it's password. Then I'm just going to copy this, paste it. It's the same thing. The only difference between password 1 and password 2 is the placeholder. Here it's confirm password, like that. Very simple. Then after creating our form, the next thing we want to do is we want to create a view function to get these details. But before we do that, I just have to pass one extra attribute. It's class meta. Then the model I want us to use, it's the user model. Sorry, is equals to user. This user model we imported. Then fields I want to use, it's the username and the email. Username and then email, like that. Then after that, next we create a function. We are going to create a function to get these details, also to get this form. So to do that, we are just going to views.py. Then we are going to say, now if you look at our register.html, we have this form. Now instead of us rendering this form like this, what we want to say is, instead of saying like form method is equals to post, then we have these details. All we want to pass here is form, like the one we passed there. We want to provide something like form, and then when we provide form, we'll get all these details. So that is what we want to do. So to do that, we are going to say, I'm just going to change this quick to post with the caps, like that. I think there's no difference, but I kind of like it like that. So here we are going to say if, so first of all, let's import the form that we created in this user register form. So we're going to say from user auths dot forms, we want to import the user. I think it's, is it user creation of the user register form, user register form. uh Register, user register form, like that. User register form. So here we want to say if form, now if method, we want to say if request dot method, if request dot method is equals to post. If here the method is equivalent to post, then what do we want to do? The first thing we want to do is we want to initialize the form. So to do that, just say, also here it's is equals, sorry, if request dot method is equals to post, the first thing is we initialize the form. We say form, we set a variable name called form. You can set it wherever you want, is equals to user register form, like that. If method is equals to post, then we want to initialize this form, user register form, to get all those fields associated with this form model called user register form. Then I'm also going to pass some extra parameters here. I'm sure you have seen this on other tutorials. Like we're going to say request dot post or none. If request dot method is equals to post, uh, we initialize the user register form, and then when we initialize it, the request can be a post or it can be none. It's as simple as that. Then the next thing we want to say, if this form is valid, so if form dot is valid, if this form is valid, then what do we want to do after that? We want to save the form. So to do that, we say form dot save. As simple as that. Form dot saved. Then when the form is saved, we can also like provide a message to tell the user that they have created an account. And then after that, yeah, I think that's it for now. So what we want to do, so to send a message, you're going to use messages. To do this, I'm going to import messages. So I'm going to say from Django.contrib import messages. Then I'm gonna say messages dot its success. The first thing I pass is request. Then I can also pass an f string. So I can say f. I say hey. Maybe you can also pass a username. So to get a username, we are just going to define a variable username is equals to the username of that individual who created this account. So we just say username is equals to, then we pass this username here, like that. So it's hey username. that username. We are going to define this. So hey username, so let's say it's Peter or Dennis or Klaus, hey username. Then so it's hey Klaus, your account has been created successfully, successfully, like that. uh, Missing that, so this should be like that. Message dot success, request. Oh, I missed this, supposed to be like that. Username, your account has been created successfully, like that. So we get the username. To do this, it's simple. It's from this form. It's usually form dot cleaned data. Cleaned data, what we want to do is we want to get the username. That clean data, the one that we saved, that's why we're using clean data dot get. Here we get the username, like that. You get the username. Then when you get the username, you want to say, you want to pass a message, hey username. The username can be whatever, whoever is creating the account. Your account has been created successfully. Something else I also want to implement is sometimes you see like when you register an account, you want to redirect the user to homepage instead of like when they come back to the account, they have to go back to the register page. So you want to redirect, if let's say a user has already registered an account, instead of redirecting them to like the login page, when they come back to the site, it will remember and then it will just redirect them to the homepage. To do that, I'm just going to use something called login. So I'm going to say, so to import login, I'm going to say from Django.contrib, from Django.contrib dot auth. I want to import, I want to import login, like that. So all I'm going to say here is login. We want to log in, so we pass we want to pass the request, and then this individual who we are logging in. So to do that, I'm just going to create another variable. I'm going to call this variable new user. I'm going to say this new user, I want to authenticate. Once we create the account, to redirect them directly, I want to authenticate that everything is correct, the one that they passed. So to do that, I'm going to import login and also authenticate. Equals to, I'm going to say authenticate. What are we authenticating? We want to authenticate whether the username passed and the password passed is correct. You can also authenticate using the email. So let's authenticate using the email to say, so we're going to say users equals to authenticate. We can say username is equals to, this username is equals to form dot cleaned data. You can pass email. Then we say password is equals to form dot cleaned data password. The email passed and the password that has been passed, we want to authenticate them. These are just name placeholders. You can call this whatever you want. I can also call this email, no problem. Call it whatever you want. The thing is, you want to authenticate the email and the password. This fields, the email and the password, is the fields that we passed here, email and the password. Yes, actually password one, like that. Then login, when we are logging in, we want to authenticate this new user. So it's request, then we pass new user, like that. Then if when we authenticate this new user, what we do want to do, we want to redirect them to home. So just going to say return, we want to redirect. So to use redirect, here from Django.shortcuts, import render, you also import redirect like that. So return redirect, we want to redirect them to home. So our home URL is at shoes home like that. Then if this doesn't work, what do you want? We say else. The only thing we want is to initialize this form. So I'm going to say form is equals to user register form. We just initialize the form. Then after that, the only thing now we're remaining to pass is the context is equals to the name that we are going to use on the register. We want to use the form, so we want to use this form. So all we're going to say it's form like that. You can provide any name. This is the name you're going to use. It can be show page or show fields, any name you want. The thing is, this is a placeholder to render this form, the one that you are passing here, but I kind of like keeping it simple. I'm going to say form. Then I'm just going to pass the context like that. It's quite simple. Then after that, now let's see whether our register function is working. So to do that, I'm just going back. I'm going back to the form. This is the current form that we have. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this form out. I can just comment this whole form out. Let me just comment it like that. Now if we refresh our page, you see the form is not showing. But now if I call form here, if I just pass form like that, and then we refresh again, you can see we are getting the form. And we also getting those fields. We are getting the username. Also you can see the placeholders, email, the username, the password 1 and the password 2, and the placeholders of them, we are getting them like that. We can also call individual fields. Let's say we only want something like the username, so it's form dot username. If we refresh, you only get the username. You see, it's easier to deal with this than than the other one. That's why I like using forms. They are very easy to deal with. So now once that is done, all we're going to do is format it correctly. And then just instead of now these inputs, we want to pass this form, and we also want to use the classes of this form so that it can render correctly the way it was rendering earlier. So to do that, I'm just going to cut. I'm just going to okay. I'm just going to go step like some few steps back like that. I want to render this form now. Instead of this, I want to replace this username with form.username. So here it's form.username. Here it's form.password, form.email rather, form.email. Then here is form.password1. Then here it's form.password2. I can just comment this for now. This is the I agree with terms and conditions. You're going to deal with this later. Then we also want the submit, so that you can submit our form. The submit and register. Something else I also know you are aware of is if you haven't passed a CSRF token, it's going to ask us to pass the CSRF token. So let's just pass it right now. It's called CSRF token, like that. So you're saying if form is equals to post, what you want to post is the username. You also want to post the email. You also want to post the password and the confirm password. Then when we post, here, like we defined, we also defined a new user to authenticate this user. We are authenticating the email and the password of that user. Once you authenticate, if they are right, if they are correct, you want to log in that user. Login request this new user. Then when we log in, where do we want to redirect them? We want to redirect them to shoes.home. I hope you also understand this part. If request.method is equals to post, if this request is equals to post, like you have seen here, we want to initialize this user register form. This user register form we created. We initializing it to get the username, email, and these other details. Then when we initialize it, the request can be either post or none. It's not a must to pass this, but again of just like passing them. Then once we initialize, we want to check whether this form is valid. So you say if form is valid, what we want to do is we want to save that form like we did here. Then once we save, what we are doing is we're providing a message. We're telling the user, hey, that username. To get the username, we're saying we're creating a variable username, and then we're using cleaned data. We say form.cleaned data. This data that has been saved, we want to get the username of that data. So you're saying, hey, that username, your account has been created successfully. I've already explained this. So let's see whether our form is working correctly. To do that, I'm just going to create a user. So let's refresh this. Okay, everything is working correctly. So let me just create another user. Username, we can call this user Trump, email trump@gmail.com, password, any password you want. Submit and register. Save. You see everything is working correctly. When we click submit and register, that user has been registered, and also we authenticated that user. After the authentication, we redirected the user to the home page. We can just go to our site administration and see whether that user has been created. So I'm just going to refresh. I'm just going to log in with these details. These details we created them earlier. If you haven't created a super user, make sure you create one. Also, one thing, the user is not showing here, so let me just add the user to the model, to the admin. It's very simple, so I'm just going to go to admin. Here I'm going to say from user auth dot models. I want to import the user. Then I'm going to say admin dot site dot register. I register this user like that. Let me refresh. We get the user. You can see the user that we created has been created successfully. This is the previous user that we had created and kind of deleted that initially. Let's see the trump.gmail. I'm just going to click on it. You see, this has been created. You can also add additional field because now we are using because we imported the what was it? We imported the user. This user. Where's the user? Yeah. We said class meta. We also want to use the user, the email, and the username and the email. Also here we imported the user, and then this user we had created area. Let me show you from models. The fields on this user are email, username, and the bio. That's why you're also seeing this additional details, this additional bio. You can write I am Trump. I will probably be the next president of Mars. You can create whatever bio you want to create, then just save that user. We can also define what fields we want to show here. It's very simple. So to do that the on the admin, you just have to create another class. You can create class user admin, then from models dot I want to use not models, it's admin. It's admin dot model admin. Then all I'm going to say is list display. List display what I want to show is equals to I want to show the these fields. Where are they? Email, username, and bio. Email, username, and bio, like that. If we refresh, instead of it showing like this, oh sorry, you also have to add the user admin. You can see now we can see the email, the username of that user, and the bio. We can be able to differentiate the three of them. Now that has been done, next I think what we want to do next is what we want to do is we want to implement this login functionality. Now, in case the user has created an account, we also want to have that ability that they can log in with those details. I think I'm also going to show you how to implement this. I agree to terms and conditions, but I think I'm going to implement this on the login, whereby if a user hasn't accepted the terms and conditions, then they can't be logged in. Yeah, so I think that will be fun, and that's for this tutorial. And thank you for watching.